All right, hello everybody. My name is Peter, and now I'm going to regale you with the tale of my recent trip to China in the middle of December last year. This is a story I should have told you much sooner because even now my memories of the trip are starting to fade and falter and fall away. But sooner is better than never. I mean, later is better than. Anyways, I was struggling about choosing the format and form of this of how I was going to tell you this story. Like, would I show a bunch of pictures and flip through them and tell you? Because I did take a lot of pictures over there. Or would I? I don't know. I just couldn't figure it out. But in the end, this is what's happening. Okay, I'm going to draw, and you can listen, and I will try to explain some of the highlights and things that stuck out to me, and where I went and what happened. If you do want to see some of the pictures, you can scroll down on my Instagram account. I uploaded some there. I think there's like 3 different albums of 20 pictures each, something like that I took with a nice camera that I took with me. I took like, I don't know, like 2,000 something pictures, but only like 200 of them were good, and I uploaded like 30 of them or 60 of them, something like that. Anyways, I had fun. Anyways, so the structure of this trip, the reason that I went is I went with UNCG, the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, the school that I just graduated from. I was invited to go by the department head of the school I graduated from, the School of Art, and I went along with 3 other art students who were also invited to go because we were going and visiting some art schools, and I guess they wanted art students to go and interact with the other art students at those schools to, I don't know, get like a student's perspective or something like that. Or maybe if there were art students there in China that were considering coming to the United States, coming to the art program at UNCG, that they could talk to us and ask us what it would be like, and just a better exchange of information that way. And most of the people on the trip, there were like maybe 5 or 6 other people. There were various heads of departments at the school. Like there was, like I said, the head of the, I don't know if they're like department heads or chairs or something like that, of the School of Art, the School of Dance, the School of Kinesiology, the Dean of Undergraduate Studies, some people that helped organize the trip and guide the trip, a couple people that spoke Chinese who are from the Office of Global Engagement, I think it's called at UNCG, and someone who is from another program called the North Carolina Education Society. And these 2 people, they were amazing because they were just constantly organizing things, working things out. And this is my ideal kind of trip to go on. First of all, where I don't gotta plan anything out. Everything is planned out for me. I just gotta tag along, and they're like, next we're going here, then we're going here, then we're going there. I'm like, okay, tell me which direction to walk. I'll follow you. Tell me which bus or train or plane to get on, and I'm right there. And when I was emailed about this about 1 month before the trip, the director of the School of Art emailed me, because this is the same person who I previously went to Italy with during the summer. She emailed 4 of us art students, all of us who had gone to Italy previously, because she had short notice to grab 4 art students to take to China, and she just chose 4 of us who had been to Italy with her during the summer, because she knew that 1, we had passports, and 2, we could handle ourselves in a foreign country more or less. But when I got this email, she's like, "Hey Peter, do you want to go to China?" And I was like, wait, I never considered that I would be able to go to China. Like, that was always just kind of, I mean, even before I'd been to Italy, all of Europe kind of seemed like a fairy tale land to me. Like, I knew it existed, but until you go there and see it for yourself with your own 2 eyes, till you step foot on it with your own 2 feet, it might as well be Atlantis or Narnia. I don't know. There's something about doing it for real for yourself, right? And because of the nature of this trip, somehow it was all expenses paid. All the plane flights, all the hotels and everything. All the food was paid for. The only thing I paid for was like uh, some little some snacks I bought for myself, and some like trinkets and stuff, like some souvenirs I bought at little shops and stores. So this is, I mean, when I was presented with this, I was like, I took a day just to see if the email would disappear out of my inbox to see if it was real or not. And then I said yes, and then I waited for a couple more weeks until I got like the confirmation that it was actually happening, because they were still working stuff out on their end. And then it was like, yeah, we're going, here's your plane tickets, be at the airport at this time. And they sent out this document of like different cultural norms in China to be ready for, like, there are a lot of different things like, don't little things like don't stick your chopsticks straight down into your food, so they're sticking up from the plate, because that it looks like maybe it looks like incense, like what they do for funeral rites, or it's just more over there. It's more socially acceptable to like push and shove in public and bump into each other, or like the color red it's considered lucky over there. Just a bunch of little things like this, just to kind of know before you go over, and little things like what kind of like power adapter to bring. They suggested I take probiotics for a couple of weeks just in case the food was a little bit different, so I wouldn't get like some sort of like diarrhea or something. Anyways, so eventually, let me skip ahead. I've been talking for 6.5 minutes already. We haven't even gone to China, but got on the plane. All right. We flew and we landed in Detroit. That was the first leg of the journey. However, there was a problem because our plane taking off from Greensboro was delayed, and our layover to get on the plane from Detroit to the plane that would take us to China, there was only a 30-minute layover. And you would know, if you've ever, 30 minutes is not that long, because sometimes it takes 20 minutes for everyone to get off of a plane. So our plane was delayed, and so we had to wait a whole nother day in Detroit for the next plane to take us from Detroit to Shanghai. So we ended up staying in this very strange hotel in Detroit, like one of those weird hotels near the airport. It's like it's a very liminal space. It's very like no one ever stays. It's like a very in between. There's nothing really around except for a bunch of other hotels, strange little gas stations, some like meeting places. But this was called a garden hotel. I think it's like a Wyndham Garden Hotel, but it had a very post-apocalyptic vibe to it, because in the main lobby was this giant greenhouse, essentially, with tons of real trees and bushes and plants growing in it, and all this tiling. The trees were dropping leaves on the ground. It looked like, if you ever seen that movie I Am Legend with Will Smith, how like New York City is overgrown with trees and stuff growing up through all the roads, and he's like driving around in a Mustang hunting deer from it's just like, it was so overgrown and surreal and weird, and it was also kind of abandoned because it was just like a weird little hotel next to the Detroit airport. I don't know, it was just weird. Anyways, we stayed there for a day, and it was kind of a nice bonding moment because a lot of us didn't know each other. There were like 10 of us on the trip, and so we had like that evening before, we had that night where we like went into the bar, we played some pool, had a couple drinks and some like chicken wings, and we got to chit chat a little bit. And then the next day we finally flew to Shanghai. It was like a 17-hour flight. I don't know what I did the whole time. It was kind of a blur. I slept some, I watched some movies, listened to music, and then we landed in Shanghai. And even just landing in there, it was like, the airport was massive. The architecture, it was like crazy. Like they had this weird roof thing going on with like all these, looked like giant Q-tips poking down from the ceiling. Then immediately we had to go like out of the security check and then back in, because then immediately we flew from Shanghai to a airport called Wenzhou, another city called Wenzhou. Is like another hour and a half. So there we were in Wenzhou, a day late, but we were finally at our first destination. and we visited this. I can't remember if we. Oh, first thing we did was they took us to the hotel. See, this is the other main thing about this trip that was amazing, and I gotta say this is probably what I have to couch this whole experience in this, that I probably didn't have a true, maybe authentic experience of China in a sense, because I was traveling with this group of people, like school officials, and almost everywhere we went, we were going to meet with a Chinese school who was essentially rolling out the red carpet for the people I was with, right? And so they were trying to show us a lot of really nice things. They were trying to show us a good time, right? They were trying to put us in nice hotels, feed us good food, take us to nice landmarks, stuff like that. So you got to keep that in mind. They were trying to show us all the coolest things. And this first hotel we went to was probably one of the nicest hotels I've ever been in. It was just completely over the top. Like the main lobby, the main lobby, it was probably just the area walked in. Once again, they had trees in there, but the trees in this place, they made a lot more sense because the main lobby was probably like 20 stories high, just inside. Like that's how high up the roof, the ceiling was. And there was just all this crazy marble and decoration and this wood engraving behind the reception desk that went up like 100 feet. And everything was just ramped up to like 11. And it was just, everything was extremely ritzy. It was like some kind of weird resort hotel, but it felt odd because we were there in the winter and it was like 32 degrees. So there were like palm trees outside, but none of it all just felt odd, right? But, I mean, this is like, there were no smoking signs, but as soon as we checked in and we went over to the elevator and pressed a button, the first thing I saw was a guy walks out of the elevator with a cigarette in his mouth, and he lights it, and his lighter shoots out a flame that was about 14 inches tall, and that's how he lit his cigarette. And I'm pretty sure people were smoking in the hotel rooms there and everything. There was an ashtray on my bathtub, so it was like, this place is nice enough that I think you could just get away with doing whatever you wanted. They had an extremely nice toilet there in that hotel room. They had a bidet, and that might be the first time I've used a bidet. I'm not sure, but I mean, I would walk up to the toilet, and then the toilet lid would automatically raise as it sensed me walking up to it, and I would sit down, and the toilet seat would be preheated, and then I would, poop or pee or whatever. And then I would press like a little button, and it would like spray some water on my butthole. And then I would I press another button, it would dry me off like a blow hot air. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to use toilet paper after that or not, but I usually would, just kind of out of paranoia and habit. And then I would get up, and it would automatically flush and close the toilet lid again. So, I mean, it was a nice toilet. And all the hotels I went to after that, none of them were that nice. None of them had the bidet with the automatic everything, and I was kind of missing that. So we were kind of spoiled off the first place. And then we went down for breakfast in the morning, and they had this amazing breakfast buffet. And this is my kind of breakfast buffet because they had some like non-breakfast, what Americans would consider non-breakfasty items. Because I was asking some of the Chinese people we were with, like, hey, what's a normal breakfast in China? And they were like, noodles or soup or something. I don't know. So it's like they don't all eat like cereal or eggs or whatever, waffles. I don't know. Because I kind of like eating regular savory things like, I don't know, the concept of breakfast food, I don't really enjoy that. And so I enjoyed being able to eat like meatballs and noodles and wonton soup for breakfast. But I was trying all these amazing different things. This was like the nicest, ritziest, most over-the-top buffet breakfast place I've ever been to. There was a person there like juicing cucumbers into cucumber juice, and I was drinking like this mango juice, and they had breakfast sushi freshly made, and all. I can't even get into it all. You could like point to all these different ingredients on this one section. They would make it into a soup for you. Oh, it was amazing. I kept going back, getting more and more, and this was just the beginning. I didn't know how insane the food would get and how I would have to learn to pace myself. So then, after breakfast, we went to a place called Zhejiang Industry and Trade Vocational College. I don't think I'm saying that right, probably Zhejiang. But usually in the United States, an industry, like a trade or vocational college, like in a lot of people's minds, this is like, for better or for worse. I don't know if this should be the way I don't know if this is the way it should be, but like a trade school, vocational school is kind of one step below like a regular college. I don't know, maybe because people are learning to be like an electrician or a plumber or something instead of I don't know. I learned to be an artist, so it was I probably guaranteed less money than an electrician or plumber. So I don't know if that's the way it should be. But anyways, this place was nice. It had just been built. I think I heard it had just been built like 4 years ago, but it was already massive. It already had like 15,000 students at it. The library looked like a giant modern stadium. It was insane. We like pulled in on this bus. There were like police officers or security guards, I couldn't tell which, at the front gate, like saluting. And they took us they walked us kind of through the campus at the beginning, and they walked us into this room in the hallway out front. They had like these banners covering the roof of the hallway with these little pennants with American and Chinese flags everywhere. And then they had this amazing mural, this painting going down the wall, which is this kind of Chinese art that's local to the area. I can't remember what it's called. It's called like Owu painting or something, but it's like a type of painting they do with different colors of clay, which essentially, you know how if you do like a painting with oil paint or acrylic, really thick stuff, it kind of has like a 3D textured feel to it. That's kind of what this clay painting was like, except it was that, but way ramped up, because each like brush stroke was a clump of clay, very carefully applied. Later, we went to the other campus of this school, and we saw one of their workshops where people were working on making these clay paintings, and there was a guy sitting there with some green clay, and he was sitting there just carefully making a bunch of little leaves, which I'm guessing were going to be used in some future clay thing. He was just making leaves. That's all he was doing. Anyways, so they walked us. The first thing they did was they walked us into this like meeting room where there were like these two long tables going down the length of the room facing each other, and all the Americans sat on one side and all the Chinese people sat on the other side, like facing each other. And then there was a table at the head of the room with like a projector screen behind it, and we all had like a name tag in front of us, which was cool because we all had like our American name on one side and then like the Chinese version of our American name on the other, so I got to see what my name looked like in Chinese. And then we all had like some little like pamphlets, a little gift bag in front of our seat on the table, and like a little cup of hot green tea, which was so good. And then they started doing like these. This was like the boring part that happened at every school, where they would, people from each school would take turns presenting, talking about their school, talking about why their school is good and why the other school should send people to their school, what they have to offer, why they hope the other school will come together and cooperate. And it's kind of a formality, right? And then they would sign something, which was also kind of a formality, just kind of like I think it was called like I don't remember what it was called, but they would sign something like our dean of undergraduate studies, and then their dean or president or something from that school would sign something. They would hold it up together like they had just signed some momentous peace treaty, and then a bunch of people would be taking pictures. They'd be holding it up and smiling. and they would exchange some gifts. And it was pretty cool. Most of these places had like this automatic translation system. Like when someone would be speaking English on the screen behind them, the English words would be showing up, and then next to it, the Chinese translation would also be showing up. I think it was some sort of automatic thing. And then if someone was speaking Chinese, the English translation would be showing up as well. I don't know, it worked pretty good most of the time, except one time our main guy went up and he was trying to break the ice with some jokes, except that they didn't have the program switched around from Chinese to English to Chinese yet, so none of the Chinese people got any of his jokes because it wasn't translating yet. So he was like cracking his jokes, and then all the Chinese people were just sitting there straight-faced. But most of us gave him a few laughs, so at least the other people, say we gave him some laughs, some support there. But it's just funny. There's always a few little hiccups like that, but you can't really avoid that sort of thing with such a big language and cultural barrier. But I always got the feeling there was like a desire for people to want to get along and everything. So it was always a very kind. And like if you ever said hi to anyone, they would say hi back. And of course you could say ni hao, but I think the main greeting that people like saying in China is hi or hello, and they say bye and bye bye for goodbye. Like that part has reached China. They all say that stuff. And after that we took like a little tour. Oh no! After that we walked around through the campus a little bit. And we went to some other big building, which is like a lecture hall. And they talked some more. More people from both schools talked, more presentations. But in this lecture hall, there was a bunch of Chinese students sitting in the lecture hall. And then at the end, some of them asked questions with a microphone. And then people from our school answered questions. And then we took a little tour of the campus some more. On the campus, they had a museum just for the history of the campus, which was weird because the campus was only 4 years old, but they had a history museum for the school, I guess also for the area of China. I don't know, I didn't get a lot of it because I wasn't paying attention. I think I was just kind of cruising, just like soaking it all up at a surface level, like vibes based soaking up. It's hard. All of it was in Chinese anyways, all the information. If I wanted to really understand anything, I had to use my Google Lens translate thing. There was a person explaining things and translating, but it was just kind of sensory overload, if you know what I mean. And then we took a tour of some of the facilities where students would go to classes. Like there was a place where they had all these 3D printers, and there was even a metal 3D printer. They had laser cutters, plasma, CNC machines. And then they had this huge hall full of actual 5-axis CNC machines. They all looked really nice. There was one guy in there doing some CNC work. They had a bunch of these nice, amazing robot arms, I guess you could learn to program. I guess that was the point of them, for learning how to do automation and stuff. I mean, this place was nice. It was way nicer than anything I've ever seen before. I can't imagine. I think my school, UNCG, has 1, maybe 2 3D printers. They had a room with 30 3D printers in it. And I don't even know if we have one CNC machine. We have one CNC plasma cutter. They had 70. I guess each student gets their own. I don't know how it works. And then we went to lunch, and this is our first. It was just there's a student cafeteria, but then in some other upper room, they had some little rooms with tables for private meals. And this is our first introduction to what these meals are going to be like, where you sit around a big table, and on the inner part of the table, there's a huge lazy Susan. The inner part of the table turns so you can reach past your plate towards a raised area of the table, which turns, and then that's where they put all the dishes. And when you first sit down, there's 4 dishes on that part of the table. And so we would start eating, not realizing how much more was going to be brought out. And every 4, 5, 6 minutes, another dish would be brought out and put on the table, turning. And at first, we just weren't good at pacing ourselves. Like, we got too full too fast. And by the end, they were still bringing dishes out, wedging them, cramming them onto the table. There wasn't any more room. They were just like pushing, shoving, squeezing dishes onto this table. Incredible, crazy looking things that I've never seen before. And I just couldn't squeeze it anymore into my poor belly. But after that, I learned only nibble. Take 1 or 2 bites, 1 or 2 bites worth from each dish that comes around. And then at the end, you can start going back for seconds from the things you really liked. That's a better technique right there. Anyways, this school had some interesting majors. For example, like, I think this is the school that pumps out people that are good at, posting things on Alibaba and Amazon and stuff like that, because they have like a cross-border trade majors, e-commerce majors, creative design, ophthalmology and optometry majors, optoelectronic manufacturing, business administration. And also they have a whole cluster of artificial intelligence majors, which I thought was interesting. Also, I'm just reading from one of the little booklets they gave us about the school. One snippet here says it's about the school and their values and their achievements. It says, "The college upholds the banner of socialism with Chinese characteristics, aiming to provide education that satisfies the needs of the people. Guided by the motto of uphold broad vision and lofty ideals, pursue excellence and integrity." And further down it says, "The college aims to cultivate high-quality technical and skilled personnel, skilled artisans, and excellent professionals who contribute to the comprehensive construction of a modern socialist country." And this is where I started to notice a difference from the goals of these schools apart, in contrast to the goals of schools in like United States. Because United States, no, I've never, maybe I'm just oblivious, or like I've just seen it too many times or something, but I usually never see it written out as a goal for like an undergraduate or anywhere in a college education that part of the goal is to make better Americans, or to make students that will make America stronger or something. I don't know, maybe it should be, but this is where I started to see the trend that they're trying to make students that one of their highest priorities is that the people would be able to serve the motherland, that they're trying to create laborers, workers. Labor always came up, morality, honor, integrity. It's like there's a few of these buzzwords they kept bringing up, and they didn't shy away from words like socialism and stuff like that too, which I thought was interesting. They are completely all in on that. Later on, when we were at the other campus of the school where they were working on the clay art, there was a girl slowly working away on a clay portrait of Mao Zedong. Wasn't he a communist leader of China who was responsible for millions and millions of his own people dying or something? I was like, do they learn about that, or is it taught to them in some other way, or is he glorified for that? Or I'm just not sure how that's presented. I'm just curious. I don't know. Anyways, also later in the day, we went to this restaurant, which is really cool because the restaurant was entirely staffed and run by students, which I thought was such a cool idea. Like, that's if you want to be, in the restaurant industry later in life, what's a cooler thing than to have a restaurant kind of on campus on the street near the school, where you get to make your own food, make your menu, prepare it, serve it to people, especially like visiting dignitaries and weird little American art students and stuff like that. I just thought it seemed like such a cool opportunity for those students. Anyways, I'm getting too bogged down on the first couple days. This will take me forever to say. Look, the next day we took a train from Wenzhou to Hangzhou, which is mostly a sightseeing day. We stayed in a hotel there. I don't know who paid for all this stuff, because this day we didn't even visit a school. It was just sightseeing. We went to like this place called West Lake. We walked around. There was this some folklore about a white snake lady who lived on a mountain or something. She woke up, she tried some alcohol, and I couldn't keep track of it all, but it was a beautiful lake. Lots of people walking around enjoying the scenery. There were looked like there were boat tours you could take. A lot of the boats looked like floating pagodas, which was really cool. It was just really pretty. Then we went to a silk museum, which was cool. You could see like silk things that have been made out of silk, hand woven. Some of them made with looms, like different weaving machines. That's what looms are, right? Then they had a bunch of old like traditional looms, and there was a person like operating one of them, and it looks so labor intensive. Even with a loom, it looks so complicated. Like there were so many interwoven threads. It looked mind-boggling, truly. I think that's the best use of the word mind-boggling. That's the most applicable use of it it's the best way I've ever used that word, mind-boggling, is all the strings and threads in this loom. Okay? I really couldn't comprehend how it worked or how you could keep it straight. What else did we do that day? We walked around. We went to some old temple. No, an old palace, like a retirement palace of some old emperor. I should probably remember better. From the Song dynasty, maybe. A lot of it had been rebuilt, obviously, because I think it was from hundreds and maybe thousands of years ago, and I think it had initially been made of wood, but had been remade. But there was this huge covered area where you could see the ground, and it was like an archaeological site where you could see like I think this was the actual ruins where they had built a giant roof over it to preserve it, and you could walk around it, and there were like some glass floors where you could look down through it. Then I think we went to a dinner or something. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything important. We walked around we did go to an amazing dinner that night. We walked around along some river. The food was incredible. There was a nice little street of things you could buy. I remember there was one little stand where they were selling a bunch of weird little animals in little boxes of water. Like there were axolotls and stuff. Bunch of colorful little axolotls in water. But I was like, how are these things staying alive? It's like 30 degrees outside. Are they not freezing to death in there? I guess if you're is there something about reptiles or something being cold-blooded? It doesn't matter. I can't keep all that straight. Anyways, the next day we took another train, I think, to Nanchang. Nanchang, is that how you say it? Who knows? We went to the school called Jiangxi Normal University. And I mentioned this in a previous video, Jiangxi Normal University. We stayed here for a couple of days, and we stayed on a hotel that was on the college campus. And this is where I started to notice a few trends about, I don't know if you call this energy conservation. And I couldn't tell if they were doing it because they couldn't afford it, or they were just trying to save money or save energy. But frequently in buildings throughout China, if it wasn't one of the ritzy hotels like the one we were staying in at first, but so many like giant school buildings and hotels in the main areas of these buildings, like the lobbies and hallways, they would not heat any of these spaces. They would only have like a little heater, maybe in the corner of a classroom even. And they wouldn't even pretend to try. In these all the lobbies and hallways, they would have windows open, even if it was below freezing. Open windows. And even in all the classrooms, we went and visited art classrooms. I gave a little presentation in one of them talking about some of the sculptures I had been making. Everyone, even if they were working on sculptures or painting or sitting at computers doing 3D modeling, they're all sitting there fully bundled up in all their coats and everything all the time. So I don't know, maybe it's just cold for such a small period of the year. They don't want to do heating, or maybe it's just another cultural norm there. It's just, hey, we just wear our coats all the time in the winter, or I just don't know. But it was just, that was one of the biggest cultural shocks to me, is not hating the inside of buildings. Also, a lot of the times, whole like areas of buildings would just have no lights on. Like we went up into the hallway where our hotel was, and there were no lights on. Like, I mean, the area of the hotel where our rooms were, and the hallway was just dark. And later the lights were on, but it was just like, but then everyone acted like it was normal. Like they weren't like, oh, sorry, we got to turn the lights on. They were just like, oh yeah, your room is down here. I was like, I can't see anything. Anyways, yeah, Jiangxi Normal University was interesting. That was just like, this was the place we went to that seemed most like a regular college compared to like my college experience in the United States. We I think in the places we split up a little bit there, but me and the other art students, I think this is why we were brought. We ended up going, and we like one day we like participated in some art classes and hung out with some art students. I even got to ride on a scooter with on the back of one girl took me and another of us students to go get, I think it's called milk tea. So I rode on the back of the scooter with her, and we're like zooming around. Just all the time I spent on buses going from place to place, because they would have like these tour buses to take us around. I would just be looking out the window taking pictures, and they would have these dedicated lanes usually for all these scooters. They look like, like Vespas almost, but they're all electric, but I don't know where they charge them. Maybe they like take the battery out at home and take it home to charge it, because I didn't really see any charging stations. But apparently at some point there was like some rule or law put into place that all the scooters had to be electric to cut down on pollution. And then at one point, one of our tour guides pointed out to us that we can look on all the cars, and you could see if the cars either had green or blue license plates, and the ones with green license plates were electric vehicles. And then I started realizing they had so many electric vehicles there. Like, it seemed like at least a third. I want to say like half, but it's probably closer to a third or maybe a quarter. But they had a lot of electric vehicles over there, at least in the cities we were in, driving around. Like I said, I didn't get a glimpse of a lot of the lifestyles there. Like, I didn't really get a glimpse of much of the rural areas. That's a weird word, rural. Except for when we were taking trains from place to place, we would get like glimpses of the countryside, and there would be, you see like plots of land where it looked like people were farming. You could see like a little lake. I think I saw someone fishing once. And not a lot of like single family homes, not a lot of just people with their own little house, a lot of little clusters of like little towns where the houses maybe look like they were all at least 3 stories high, with a bunch of people living in each one, like all apartment buildings, I think. And in the cities, this was the most mind-boggling part. Just driving in the bus, riding in the train, you would look out when you're in the city, and so many high-rise apartment buildings in so many of these cities. And it seemed like they'd usually build them in clusters of like 4, 5, 10. And then there would be 10 clusters of 10. All these high-rise apartment buildings, pretty narrow, usually 15, 20, 30 stories high. And they would just be covering the landscape. It'd be like a forest of high-rise apartment buildings, just so many. Like, the type of apartment buildings like Greensboro, where I live, probably has like 3 or 4 of these. And then in one 5-minute ride on the bus, I could probably see 1,000 of them. Like, it was boggling my mind how many of these apartment buildings there were. And then some of them were clearly just freshly made, because they had, I think there was explained to me, but some of these had not even been furnished yet. Like, it was just the bones of them. Like, they had just been built and nothing had been put in them. And apparently you can choose when you move into them, you can buy it furnished or buy it unfurnished. And by the way, unfurnished means absolutely nothing in it except the walls and the floors. Like no doors, no appliances or counters or cabinets or anything. But of course, that makes it a lot cheaper. At least that's what someone told me. I find that hard to believe just because it's so different than what I'm used to, I guess. But that's what someone told me. Anyways, they're just I can't stress that there were just so many. You would just be cruising along in the train, and there'd just be a serene countryside, and then out of nowhere, another huge clump of these apartment buildings. You're like, I guess I'm not that far from. You're never that far from another huge clump of apartment buildings, and sometimes it would just be like, it felt like something out of like Blade Runner 2049 or some insane, surreal sight. Like, and then there was always an atmospheric haze, I guess, of pollution. I can't imagine how much worse the pollution was before they turned all the scooters electric and had all these electric vehicles. And I guess it probably helps that they don't heat inside of all the buildings. That probably cuts down on a lot of pollution. They have to generate that much less electricity. So, I mean, it seems like they're trying, so I don't know. It was just so many scenes with the atmospheric haze, the sunlight cutting through between these tall clusters of endless forests of buildings. I just couldn't take it all in. It was just weird and amazing. I couldn't figure out how it all worked. I feel like I was talking about something else. Yeah, this place was. Oh yeah, let me. I have another pamphlet here, another booklet here about from Jiangxi Normal University. This is some writing about the College of Physical Education there, and this is about the objectives for the academic master's degree. I just thought this part jumped out at me because, once again, this is so different than what it would say at an American school. Here's point number 1 under the objectives. It says, master the basic tenets. Sorry, the tenets. It says, is it supposed to be tenets? It says tenets. It says, master the basic tenets of Marxism, adhere to the 4 cardinal principles, love the motherland, abide by discipline and law, have good moral character, rigorous study style, love labor, have the scientific spirit of seeking truth from facts, constantly pursuing new knowledge, and having the courage to create, in the spirit of dedication to the construction of socialism with Chinese characteristics. So once again, there's just obviously a priority to creating people that will help the country, I guess, in someone's view of some vision of what's good for the country, some weird socialistic Marxist vision. I don't know. It's a little bit creepy to me, but oh yeah. Also, this is the place where we went to the student cafeteria, and I got those pens that I reviewed in the other video. I feel like, there's so much other stuff that happened. I'm not going to remember it all, but it's okay. It'd probably take forever to talk about it all anyways. We went to a section of the school where they had they were designing 3D virtual reality video games. They had a little arena for battle bots, and different people from our Dean of Undergraduate Studies. I have pictures of him looking all goofy with the VR headset on playing a game. And they had this section where people would put on mocap suits and become part of a game and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. We went to a section where they did a martial arts demonstration and a dance demonstration, and that was amazing. They had a whole thing ready where they had different troops. One section was doing something that looked more like traditional, I don't know. I don't want to call it the wrong thing. It looked like traditional kung fu, and then some people had did a routine with nunchucks. Some people had spears. Some people had these swords that made a lot of noise. Some people had these incredible costumes with fast switching masks, and they did fire breathing. Some people were did more gymnastic stuff, jumping around, doing flips and splits, and some people were just a big troop doing synchronized dance moves, and it was just so much. And we were all just sitting there at this table, that like this table for all of us, one big long table in front of this area where they performed. We were all just sitting there. Like it just felt very different. I don't know than how we would have done it in the U.S. Just having us all sit at a table watching them. I don't know what it was about it. It just, anyways. But then afterwards, we all like got up and like took pictures with them and stuff. It was really fun. They were all like taking selfies with us, or like taking selfies with them. Like, oh, they had like these people with the big dragon things you see at like Chinese parades, where there's like multiple people under one big dragon costume. You know, they would like pop the dragon costume off, take a picture with us. And then we went over to like the athletics area. There was like a big track, and they were like, people were playing soccer. We went in there, people playing like badminton and volleyball, and like some of the people from our group were like jumped in and were like trying to play some badminton and volleyball with them. Anyway, just fun little tour things like that. Okay, I can't remember. I can't remember what else we did there, but we stayed there for like 2 or 3 days doing different things, having a lot of incredible meals, which I finally learned to pace myself, having amazing food. I wish I was better at describing what the food was. Almost every meal there was like a whole fish on a plate, which I started avoiding that just because there was always a lot of little bones in there. I was afraid to choke to death on the fish. A lot of chicken feet, duck bills, a lot of amazing noodles, just like chunks of meat, always like a soup or two, sometimes 3 different soups. I don't know, I can't even remember it all. Amazing desserts. I wish I was, the food I think is the thing I regret the most, that I'm not better at describing. For the food, you really just got to be there and take a bite of it, you know. But it was amazing. Like, I don't know where we would just all be sitting there at a table, and and I think a lot of them had like a little motor slowly turning part of the table, and then every now and then someone would, you know, reach out and try to grab something, and it would be moving too fast, so someone else would like put their finger on the table to stop it. So it's kind of a group effort. If someone was looking out for you, it would help a little bit. But it helped everyone, I think, in our group who wasn't good at chopsticks to feel a lot more confident with chopsticks, because you had to be quick on your toes to be grabbing stuff off of this moving, turning table thing, right? And sometimes you would have 2 pairs of chopsticks at your plate. One is like a private pair for you to eat with off your own plate, and then another pair for you to grab stuff off the center part of the table and put it on your plate. So it's like a private and a public pair of chopsticks. And also they started eventually, at some places they started making us coffee, even though it seemed like they hardly ever drank coffee. Eventually they would make us coffee, but sometimes they would just give us like the tiniest amount of coffee, like a little bit of coffee in a teacup. And it's like, no, we want a big cup of coffee. But it was funny that they would, you know, it's the gesture that counts. And sometimes they would have like some cans of like Coke and Sprite on the table, and they never put ice in anything. But sometimes one time they brought out like a pitcher of ice with like some tongs in it for ice. It was just fun, the ways they tried to accommodate our desires, and what they couldn't quite understand what our desires were, you know, or they didn't really have the tools to give us what we wanted, but they tried anyways. And then we went to, let me just skip ahead. We went to a town called Wuhan. You probably heard of this. Took a train there. The trains, by the way, were amazing. That's one thing I wish we had more of in the U.S. We have a few. I mean, there's an Amtrak here in my town, but it's just kind of, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't go very many places. It goes slow. It just, it always just feels like kind of a pain. This train, you know, if I could take this train to like, this train, it goes at like 200 miles an hour, and it feels like it kind of goes to all the major cities. The one in China, I could be wrong, but It's pretty amazing, and it was high quality. One time I sat down next to this guy, and then he sat down, and then there was like a bag or something, like a little plastic bag that the previous person had left at his feet, and he like asked me if it was mine. I was like, no. And then then there was like someone that worked on the train walked by. He like tapped them, and he's like, hey. I couldn't really understand what he was saying because he was talking in Chinese, but I could tell just by the context clues. He's like, hey, someone left this here. Can you take care of this? And the guy was like, okay, just a second. And then eventually another person walked by. He's like, hey, can you do something about this bag? And they're like, oh yeah, just a second. And then eventually someone came by, and they took the bag. And then right behind them, another lady came along with a mop and just immediately mopped up that spot where the bag had been. It's just like some certain things they're just like completely on top of. They have very high priorities for like cleanliness in the trains. Very clean. Like the train stations, some of them were completely empty, and some of them were super crowded. Like it felt like there were maybe 20,000 people in one train station sometimes. Like it was the biggest building I'd ever been in, but also almost every inch of it was shoulder to shoulder. Somehow it was incredible. But then some areas when I found myself in an empty train station, it was just because we had gotten there too early, and the area we were in a bunch of people would show up just because they were better at pacing themselves travel-wise. They would show up right before the train came, I think. So then we went to Wuhan on these nice trains that went, I guess you'd call them bullet trains. And this place we went to, Hubei University. They had a beautiful campus. We walked around. They gave us another one of the meeting rooms with the dueling tables, people sitting on each side, presentations with PowerPoints. And there was this one cool looking Chinese guy. He looked like a Bond villain, and he had this amazing like traditional Chinese all black outfit on with like the tight collar and the buttons and it's like in a straight line going down the front. And then when he started to talk, he had this amazing like his American, when he spoke in English, he had like a British accent, which made him seem like even more of a crazy Bond villain. It was amazing. But he gave like this beautiful presentation on like the history of the university and the town. And you could tell he only had like 15 or 20 minutes to speak, but you could tell his presentation he had made, he could have probably spoken for like an hour. I felt so bad for him that he had to keep skipping things, because I wanted to hear all the other things he's had to say, because he had like these little things where he kept on. I was like slowly learning Chinese just through his presentation. I think it was a very good teacher. We went to this little tour of a building and saw like some traditional Chinese instruments, which one of them was like a string instrument where it's like it lays down horizontally, and you pluck the strings with your right hand and then adjust the tension. You like use your left hand. It's kind of like a guitar to press on the strings to change the notes of the strings, but there's probably like 20 strings on it or something. Can't remember what the instrument was called, but they probably had like 8 of the instruments set out in a classroom-like setting, and then one of them up at the front, and a lady played a few songs for us and then kind of showed us how to play it, on ourselves, and we messed around with them for a while. And then we did an activity where we dyed some traditional Chinese fans with like this lacquer dye, where you'd put the dye on the top of water in a bowl, and then you could dip the fan into the water, and it would like take the dye off of the surface of the water onto the fan, which was really pretty and fun. Just a lot of stuff like that. I'm sure we ate with them too, something amazing. And then later we went to this is the craziest school we went to. The next one and the last one was called the Wuhan Haidian Foreign Language Experimental School. Okay, we pulled up to this one, and I did not know what we were getting ourselves into. This place it felt otherworldly. It felt like maybe we had stepped into Narnia, actually, for real this time. Or maybe like that weird school where the kids are at the beginning of the Narnia movie, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it was actually a boarding school. It was like a K through 12 boarding school. Like, some of the kids there had been living there for like 8 or 9 years already. I think we talked to them. Each one of us got off the bus, and then there were like rows of students standing there to welcome us. And then we like walked into the area, and then like like 2 students got assigned to each of us as tour guides. I had like maybe I had a couple of boys assigned to me. I can't remember what their names were. They were so adorable. They were maybe like, I don't know, I guess like 14 years old ish, 12 to 14, maybe 15. And they gave me, you could see they had like their little talking points. They had like a little piece of paper with them to make sure they didn't miss anything, but they took me on a little tour of the campus. But this place is surreal in the sense that it must be the place where rich Chinese people send their kids, at least in that area, send their kids, I don't know, because here's the activities they had that you could participate in, if I can remember them. First of all, what they called shooting, which was archery. You could do archery. And they had golf, indoor and outdoor, even though they just told me about how part of their big chunk of their outdoor golf course had just been destroyed or was under construction or something. Wasn't sure, but they had an indoor driving range where we went in there, and they were in the middle of training like the youngest kids. They were like they looked like 3-year-olds practicing their drive. It was amazing. It was so weird, but adorable. Then they had tennis, of course. They had horseback riding. They had all these stables and areas for riding the horses around. And this is in the middle of a city, pretty much. But they had like this. It's so weird. When we pulled in, I thought we were pulling into like a shopping center, but it was this school with all this stuff. And then, one of my favorite things they had was the, I don't know what they called it, but like actual shooting. Like how, in the Olympics, there are all those memes about those target shooters with the air pistols, like that one guy from Turkey or whatever who just looked like a regular dude who did so good with those target pistols, and that one girl who had like that cool headgear on with that thing over her eye with the target pistol. They had that there, except I don't think there were any no bullets or pellets or anything coming out of the guns. It was just like lasers. They had rifles and pistols, and they let us try. I had a good time. I probably did it for 10 or 15 minutes just over and over again, because you would get like it would like even out your score out of like 5 or 6 shots or maybe 10 shots or something. I don't know. I might have gotten the bullseye once, but it's pretty hard. I mean, the target's probably like 50 feet away, and then you gotta. One time we went in there, and the actual instructor was in there, who I think was like a Olympic finalist of some sort. She had like her picture on the wall with her. She was wearing Olympic medals, and she would show us the way, and it was just like the way they did it in the Olympics, where you start with your arms straight and the tip of the pistol resting on the table, and then you lift it up above the target, and then slowly lower it down, and then pull the trigger. Anyways, that was really cool. And they toured us all around there, and I was asking them questions. They gave me a tennis ball. I don't know what happened to it. And of course they all play instruments. I think one of the guys I was with said he plays tuba. And they all, of course, I think up to like 8 years old or 8th grade or something like that, they all take piano lessons. And they found the area where they take piano lessons. There's just like hallways, and there's just like hallways with tons of doors, and each door is just a piano practice room. They have 60 piano teachers at that school. And then we had our final meal there, which is of course amazing as well. We just, like I said, I really got lucky being able to go on this trip, because I reaped the benefits of all these Chinese schools trying to impress the people I was with. Like, I was nobody, but the people I was with, they were I got lucky just because, they were rolling out the red carpet for the school administrators I was with. So all in all, it was a really good time. Let's see, is there anything I missed that I thought was really interesting? Everyone was wearing puffer jackets. Okay, probably 90% of the jackets I saw, jackets and coats, puffy puffer jackets. The traffic wasn't that crazy. Like, it wasn't like everyone was staying in their lanes pretty much. I never felt unsafe. I think that is because there's so many cameras. Like, sometimes I would see like a pole when we were walking around in a city, and there would be legit 10, 15 cameras and antennas and sensors on one pole. We went to, on the way back from China, we took the same route from Wuhan. We flew back to Shanghai to get our flight back to Detroit, but we had like a 6-hour layover in Shanghai, and it would have taken, the airport is, if we wanted to drive to Shanghai, to the actual city from the airport, it would have taken too long. But they have a maglev train that goes from the airport to the city and back. And what normally would take like 45 minutes or an hour by car takes only 7 minutes in that train, because it's like it goes like once again, it goes like 200 miles an hour. It goes zoop. And I love maglev train, it floats, it doesn't touch anything. It was so weird looking at the rails, like what the train goes on. It just looks like a weird concrete platform. Like, it doesn't really make sense. But the train looks weird too. Looks like something that should be in Spy Kids or something, just odd and make believe. But also I liked how it tilted to the side on turns. I guess I feel like I'm not used to trains doing that. And then we went to Shanghai, and we walked through like downtown Shanghai and along the river walk across from all those big tall buildings in Shanghai, like the iconic ones, like the one with the big balls and the big ball on top. And I don't know, there's a few iconic Shanghai buildings. And the interesting thing I noticed about the Shanghai River, like all the other rivers I've seen in like the United States, like the Hudson in New York and the Chicago River in Chicago, and I don't remember much, but I feel like even like when I went to San Francisco at the Golden Gate Bridge, the waterway there is, I guess it's not really a river, but there's not really much going on there as far as boat traffic, right? And I don't know if there should be, but the Shanghai River, there was constant traffic there. Shipping container ships, constant barges, like they were using the heck out of that river. It was not just a leisure river for like the occasional like architecture tour boat, right? Like that's the main boat you see on the Chicago River. It's an architecture tour, which I still want to do sometime. But anyways, I think I'll wrap it up here. I'm sure there was something cool I forgot to bring up that as soon as I stop recording and upload the video, I'll be like, I forgot to say that one cool thing that happened over there. But what are you going to do? Some things will always go unsaid. Thanks for listening, everybody. And I'd recommend going to China to anyone. The people were all really nice. I talked to a lot of just random students at the schools, or at least I tried to. Chinese students are like really shy, and I'm like a little bit shy around like strangers and people I don't know. So it's not the best combination, but they're all smiling and stuff all the time anyways. And if I ever started a conversation, they would always be happy to exchange WeChat information. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. When I first got there at the airport, I like exchanged like $200 American for some yuan, Chinese yuan, and I never spent a dime of it while I was over there. Every single place you go and buy things, they all use like I think Alipay or WeChat Pay. I used WeChat Pay for everything, and that WeChat app, it's like an all-in-one app. They essentially have a cashless society over there. I never really saw anyone using cash, but this WeChat app, it has like look, it says Daily services, 10-cent charity, QQ coins, public services, utilities, health, travel service, rail and flights, ride hailing, hotels, and then there's shopping entertainment on there. You can buy used goods, ticketing and events, group buying, brand mall. It says this is just like so many little things on one app. Anyways, all right, I'll see you all later, and yeah, goodbye.